If the speakers can come up to the stage now, just because I should probably mention this is being filmed, so we're going to have some questions. We've got a couple of mics to put out so that the speakers can be asked questions if anyone has any. You guys okay to come up here and just gather around? What's that? You can sit and put your counterpart. It's just that so that they can hear you through there. That's the only thing. So, has anyone got any questions?
Can you sit down again? Oh, Paul Braddock. It's all right, we can hear you, Paul.
Let's see. Chris, when you show me his screen, okay. We're just going to go talking about it.
It's actually a question for Christian.
Oh, I thought it'd be.
Just regarding the workshop, I know we're always constrained by space, but we didn't seem to have a designated area for temporary storage of objects or specimens. Did you feel that was necessary or not?
We've got a space just upstairs for that, which is we have a space next to each gallery. So that's, and outside the workshop there's this, it's a goods lift, it's not used that often, so I can usually access that. That's why everything I have to have is mobile, because I normally have to go up one floor to there, work on it, take it back down. I was keeping some objects in there, and when that ceiling incident happened, then I didn't do that again. So I keep them upstairs above, because I've got there's the loading bay is actually above the workshop, and has a compactor that crushes rubbish and stuff like that. So it's a bit I don't know. Well, it is safe in there, but I wouldn't keep objects in there. They want me to keep objects in there. They don't mind me being in there, but not objects. So.
We recently fitted a new workshop out, a new area where we
Yeah.
specified it has to have a lockable, secure space for asbestos.
Well, I have, yeah.
Enables that as well. And I was just wondering if I could just extend the question.
Yeah.
And specify that.
Just speak up. So we can't hear you anymore.
So, did the Getty see that as something that was important to have that dedicated space next to the workshop for the temporary storage of objects and specimens?
Yes, we're part of the conservation departments, and the shops are outfitted with temporary art storage, and the spaces are considered art storage spaces in themselves, not as well as workshops.
Thanks.
Unfortunately, the microphones have run out of battery. But still, if anyone has any questions. Very well. Anyone else? Yeah.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. I was very interested in those aluminium sheets with the Y shape. Did you say you tracked down a German producer, or you're still looking?
It's the company itself, the website. I'm sorry. I'll check with Zoe, who's here, but I think it's just formmetals.de, because they're a German, and it's spelt just Formmetal, and that actual product's called Ypsilon, which I guess is the Greek for Y. So, but they do a couple of other products, but I think that's the one that's most useful to us.
Yeah, it looks
And
brilliant.
yeah, it's fantastic, and the different weights mean that you can support quite heavy structures on it. So yeah, I think, like I said, if we could encourage Flints to carry it again, then it would be somewhere, at least in Britain, that you could buy it off the shelf. Unfortunately,
Well,
I don't know how much it
Norway,
cost.
so-
Oh, sorry. Well, go directly to their website, and I wasn't able to, because I can't find it in the catalogue. I couldn't track down the price, which would
Yeah,
be
I
interesting.
found
I
it,
don't know
no
if Sam, if you know how much it is. I'll
Thank you
check
very
with
much.
Joanne. But
It's £30 a litre.
for the medium weight?
Yeah.
Okay. So not cheap, but very versatile.
Any other questions?
Just another one from Roger.
Roger, I was just curious as to how much of the
mounting process your department actually takes on compared to any contracted work outside of the museum?
I mean, if we have very large steel structures that, that are beyond the capabilities of our workshop and the small TIG weld that we have, we quite often have contract companies make the larger structure, but basically anything that comes into contact with the object we deal with in-house. That's the way it works. So they may make a big structure that will hold it, but the actual clip that touches the object or whatever will always be made in-house by us. So pretty much all the mount making work goes on in-house, apart from framing, which we don't do.
Yeah, I just had another one for you, Roger. Just wanted to know the timescale of making that mount for the helmet.
I think if you talk to Zoe, you could probably tell us the conservation side. The actual mount making side for me was relatively small, and it was spread out over quite a long time, because obviously I would make that initial shape, and making that former probably was less than a day's work for the original part, and then just a few hours here and there to weld on the cross pieces and so on. But it was very much the collaborative approach to it, that I could go and be doing other stuff, and then Zoe could work on that whole structure, and I would periodically come back and we would test fit various parts, and I would just leave the mount with her, and she could work on it, and then when it was all finished I got it back, and we still actually haven't drilled it to length because we still don't know the exact height.
Yeah. When's the opening for that display?
It should be in October, sometime in October.
Cool.
So.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
This really is for all four of you. You're describing the work of Mountmakers, which at the V&A I very much recognise as being part of the role of the museum technicians. The museum technicians do significantly more than simply making mounts for the objects, which I recognise as a significant and important skill. But so is installing the objects in galleries, transporting them around the world, and doing other associated works, which is very much the general picture that the museum technician delivers at the V&A. And I'd be interested to hear your views on how that role fits in with the mount making profession that you are envisaging.
I don't mind actually just answering just from the turnout of people here today. Obviously the Mount Making Forum is called Mount Making because it does specifically dwell on that area, but there's so many different job titles that cover an awful lot of things, and we are just talking about one aspect of it. And that's by no means to belittle what anyone else does in the galleries. Installation is sometimes it can be obviously a completely separate thing. You do your mounts and a whole other team installs them, and they come with their own issues. And lots of talks and poster sessions at previous forums, say for instance things that involve items going on tour, loan items, these all require different sets of skills to be able to install them in different locations. The people who've made the mounts aren't necessarily the ones installing the mounts. So I think that, like say for instance here, we work quite closely in that way with our mount makers are kind of our installers as well, but obviously that is a separate thing in different institutions. So yeah, I don't know how you guys work that, if that's a question that's sort of been asked.
Yeah, we have a little more segregated setup at the Getty, where we have preparators who, I think you referenced, moving the artwork around and installing it. Most of the time they're responsible for that. But it brings up a good point that we were discussing over lunch, which is documentation of the mount and how it fits with the object and how it's best installed and how it's best deinstalled, so that if the mount maker isn't around and a preparator, technician, curator, conservator needs to take over, that there's some documentation that thoroughly describes the Mountmakers' intent. And even after the Mountmaker's gone, that this is archived, and that if the object needs to be deinstalled, that it's not dependent on the Mountmaker. I think it's great when the Mountmaker can be involved in the installation or transport. You mentioned maybe a courier. But I think documentation is an increasing need in an area that needs maybe a little more attention in terms of archiving what our intentions are, what our prescribed actions and the best practices of dealing with these things, so that other people can pick it up and move it along.
Can I add something to that, please? Our collections management system at the V&A, which we've just completed building, actually will incorporate all of that information, and that was very much part of the intention of doing it. And I'd be happy to talk to you more about what we've done there. My view is that what we've tried to do is essentially create a holding area for all of the data about the object, not just the traditional curator information, but also its life history, where it's gone, how it's gone there, who's done it, what the mounts are, and all of the conservation activities as well. So it's very much the whole object in one place, its history. And as I say, I'm happy to share.
Sounds wonderful, yeah. Look forward to hearing about it.
Thank you.
Any more questions, or everyone ready for a cup of tea? Yeah, so we're going to just have a half-hour break, and then we'll come back. Thank you.